Hi, I'm Greg Boas, CEO of Boas & Associates. Welcome back to our second video in our series of tips to help you with your team efficiency and productivity and unifying your team. In the first video, you would have seen 3 common problems that I went through, and in this video I'm going to be sharing with you the solutions to those problems. I trust you got a great deal of value out of the first video. I would love to see some feedback from you. Please feel free to email, give us a call, leave a comment, and we'd love to hear your feedback. Getting on to the solutions, the first problem was having someone that just isn't the right fit for your organization. Now the solution to that is to be clear on the values of your organization, be clear on the purpose, and be clear on the vision. If you, when you're interviewing someone, can communicate that to them and can get on board with them, and if they're a match with that, it doesn't necessarily have to be every single value that they have has to be a match with your organization, but what you'll find is that the more values that they have that are a match with the organization, the more natural fit they will be for your organization, for your team. Because not only will they fit into the role will actually be fairly irrelevant to them, because if they believe in the purpose and the vision and the mission of the business, they've bought into the business. They didn't buy into the role. The role is really just a stepping stone for them, especially if you've got someone that is very valuable and can provide a lot of value and experience for your team. You'll want them around for a longer period of time. Another benefit of being clear on the values, mission and purpose of your business is that when the employees or your team members have a buy-in to the organization, they will feel valued because they know what they're doing is actually making a difference. And that is better than any employee engagement program that I've seen. And it really sets down to the value set of the person with your organization and making sure that they're a match. And finally, getting to know your staff, especially in the recruitment process, it gives you a really good idea as to how they're going to fit into the organization, as I mentioned, long term, but also it gives you an idea as to what sort of leadership qualities that they may have. And that gives you the opportunity to look at them from the perspective of where potentially could they move throughout the organization, and that will save you a lot of time down the track. Let's move on to solution 2. Solution 2 is about how do you keep your team on side when you're communicating. By keeping your team on side, it will mean that you'll have a greater level of connection with them, and the bottom line with connecting with your team on their own level, it means that you create that connection, which then increases your ability to influence them. And as a manager and leader, that's really, really important. Now, in the first video, you may remember that I was talking about styles of communication. So the styles of communication, a quick recap, is we're visual, we're auditory, we're kinesthetic, or we're auditory digital. So if we're visual, we tend to process the world through our eyes. And how we communicate is we will typically use language such as seeing the big picture, visualizing, outlining, show me, that sort of style of language. For those of us who prefer a auditory style of communication, they will tend to use language such as feels good. No, they won't. Auditory, so someone who favors the auditory style of communication will use language such as, it sounds good, let's have a chat, are you hearing what I'm saying, that sort of thing. The style of communication that's kinesthetic, those types of communicators will use very much feeling-based language. So that feels good, I'm not sure about this, the gut feel just isn't right. And the auditory digital ones of us that work in teams tend to be more of the thinkers or the processors. They'll use terminology and words like processing, thinking, research, facts. They tend to be a lot slower in their communication as well. So as I mentioned, guys, it's really important to get to know your team members. Get to know them better by being more aware, being more conscious when you're actually communicating. And what I mean by that is get to know your style of communication. And when you get to know your style of communication and you understand this content, you'll actually understand other people's style of communication. And then you'll be able to work with them on a different level. And as I said, that will actually influence them on a greater level as well. Let's move on to solution 3. Solution 3 is about how to increase your ability to motivate people. You may recall from the first video I talked about the styles of motivation with your staff being either the carrot or the stick, which is just a really old school way of looking at and motivating people. Now, it's really important to understand this, guys, because from a human behavioural perspective, we are either motivated by moving away from pain or moving toward pleasure. Now, for you guys as managers and leaders, it's really important to know this because you'll know where the sweet spot for motivating your staff are. So I'm going to give you some tips now, some questions to ask yourself and to also probably ask the people that you work with, just to get to know them better. And what that's going to mean is that you'll actually know how to motivate them, but also work out how they're motivated internally as well, because at the end of the day, it's really about them firing themselves up and not having to rely on you all the time. So to work out whether someone's a moving away frame type person or consequence driven, let's take into account these types of questions that you can ask yourself, we can ask them. How do they respond to deadlines? Do they typically shy away from deadlines? Are they getting really stressed towards deadlines? Do they always worry about ongoing projects and deadlines? How do they respond to projects being given to other people? Are they quite happy to give the work away to someone else? Or do they actually relish taking the work on themselves? Do they look for what can go wrong? Now, don't get me wrong here, guys. It is really important as a manager and leader to have both types of people on your team, because what they will do is when you've got new ideas and new projects coming up, you'll get to see both sides of the coin, and you as a leader can then use that information to make an informed decision. If you're only hearing one side of the story, you'll only have that one side of the story. You need to have both to make that decision. Do they focus on what went wrong last time? So if you're doing a new project, and it might be building a car, and a new model car, and the last model car that you might have launched might have flopped, or there might have been something wrong, the first thing they will say is, okay, is this going to happen again? They may not say that out loud, they may say it to themselves, but it's important to get their perspective on it. The next question to look at if you're looking at the moving away frame guys, or the consequence driven staff members or team members you've got, what speed are they at adopting new ideas? Are they keen to pick them up, or are they slow to take them on board and adopt them? Typically, consequence driven or moving away type people are slow to pick up on new ideas. They're generally a bit wary of something new until it's proven, and that was what I was mentioning before about that example with the car. Now, looking forward, now, working out whether your team members or your staff are moving toward frame people or the possibility people or the carrot people, here's a few questions you can ask yourself and ask of them to work out whether they're one of these types of people. Do they look for possibilities in ideas? Do they look for possibilities in projects? Do they look for possibilities in the team members, how the team works together? Do they come up with ideas of how to actually improve things? They're generally the possibility people or the moving toward frame people. These people are really important to have on the team because they are quite people. They're quite bubbly. They're great people to work with. They're great people to use as support for yourself as a manager or leader, to make sure that you've got the support you need with those new projects and getting the team on board with those new ideas. They're excited about the new projects, they're excited about new tasks, they're excited, they come up with their own ideas. They also like to talk about the future. They like to talk about what they're doing. If they're always talking about, what they're doing next weekend or the next holiday or they're on, or their career goals, you'll generally find these are the types of people that are moving toward people or the possibility-driven people. So guys, they're the solutions to the 3 problems that I covered in the first video. I trust these have been of great value. As mentioned, this will be a video series where we'll be sharing lots of tips for you to increase your productivity, efficiency in your team, and getting your team unified. Until next time, thanks for watching.